said that there was nobody around to play with but black people, I was telling the truth. The only white family anywhere around was Boss Daniel and Ms. Merriman down the road, and that was too far to walk when you were a young kid. And it's impossible in my mind. Now look, there's still feeling between black and white. I'm not shucking.
Right.
But it's a lot less than it was. And it was a lot less then with people like me. And I'm not bragging about it because we all prejudiced. But I grew up playing with 4 boys that were black. And we learned to hunt, to fish, to do everything together. When I got to Georgia, I lived in the same type place, and there was always a bunch of us going to the river. Now, when you live with people down on the river all day and some nights, the prejudice changes. And I'm not smart enough to describe to you exactly how that prejudice changes, but it changes a way. Is anybody that was raised in the South at that time, any white person purely free of prejudice? No.
When we lived in Texas, it cost us $10 to go to the movies. We went to the movies a lot. There was no TV during the Depression years. And he's right about the roads. I know my sisters have told me that the roads were not paved, all of them. In town they were, but as you went from town to town, and in Oklahoma, all of them. We had to do one chore besides cleaning our room and then one other thing in the house on Saturday.
But because they were a close-knit people, and at that point, churches helped each other, families helped each other, and even if you didn't get the, I don't know, whatever food stamps then or what they called them, I don't know, but if there was somebody who got the extra pounds or whatever you would call them, they just shared them with one another. So my grandmother, grandfather, auntie, and uncle never did a lot of complaining as far as what had transpired. They were always hard-working people. They had always worked their own fields and had their own gardens and had their own animals, and so with that you didn't hardly have the problems that other people who didn't have that. And on the other hand, you were willing to help people who did need, and that was really one of the things that we grew up knowing, is that to teach them that people were people, and that don't be bothered by what people said about you. A lot of things were said to us, a lot of things were said about us when we got moved to the school. A lot of things hurt me as a child being there, but I taught my child to know you are who you are. God wonderfully and fearfully made you. And don't let anybody by no means ever make you feel any less than that. So, you know, and having read this book, I enjoyed Scout more than anybody, because she was so much like me. I was inquisitive. I wanted to know, because I didn't understand why, just because your skin was light and my skin was a bit darker, why we couldn't play together. I didn't understand why we couldn't go to the same schools together. I didn't understand why we couldn't go to the same churches together. I didn't understand that, you know. So I'd ask questions, and my mom would always say, you'll understand better one day, you know. And of course, as I got older, I began to understand the division. And it's been my prayer, and it is continually my prayer, that as we continue to grow older, that we really, really come together as a community and really as a people. And really, even though there are some things that right now we kind of hide them, we don't make them an open issue, but I'm just believing that there'll be a day that we'll all really, 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 really be able to walk together in unity and be able to forget about the colors of our skin, the nationality, or whether or not we have as much as the other individual, you know. And again, I say though, this is my first time reading that book. I have no regrets, but the fact is that it was a little bit harder than for me than it was for some other people.
We was probably some of the only blacks in the area that lived in a brick house that was really updated. In fact, the house is there today. But the fact that my father refused to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, we had to move out of the house. And then we moved from there over to where Eddie Reams had his place, over by CUNY. But all the time through that, and I went with him to work for Mr. Bean at his house and fixing fences and feeding cattle and different stuff, and he always continued to refer to him as one of his very good friends. I think he worked with him at the health unit. He helped him get a job at the health unit.
How about some real excitement? Are you tired of bouncing up and down or sliding down a slide? Add pizzazz to your next event with the space age GYROextreme. Call 225-245-0525. That's 225-245-0525 and make your next event something special.